His breath quickened, his grip faltered, and the rocks below rushed up to meet him. In this video, we delve into 5 of the most harrowing free solo climbing disasters ever recorded, each more intense and heartbreaking than the last. Viewer discretion is advised. On October 3, 1913, Paul Preuss, the pioneer in the world of free solo climbing, boldly attempted to scale the north face of Mandelkogel in Austria. Preuss was known for his radical belief that climbers should ascend using only their hands and feet. No ropes, no artificial aids, and had already completed over 1,200 climbs in his career. For him, the act of climbing was a pure expression of skill and self-reliance, pushing the boundaries of what the human body could achieve. The climb this day began under favorable conditions, with Preuss moving swiftly up the face of the mountain. Known for his precision and control, every move reflected his climbing philosophy. But as he neared the summit, the weather turned against him. Clouds descended rapidly, and a fierce wind began to howl, reducing visibility and making the rock slick and treacherous. Despite the worsening conditions, Preuss continued. The peak was so close, just a few more moves, but as he reached for a hold, his foot slipped. For a moment, he hung in the balance, fingers digging into the rock, but the stone beneath him began to crumble. In that fleeting second, Preuss knew what was coming. The rock gave way entirely, and he plummeted over 1,000 feet to his death. Paul Preuss had always known the risks of free solo climbing, but he believed the challenge was worth it, that risking his life paradoxically enriched it. His death was not just the end of a climber, but a statement about the limits of human endurance and the unforgiving nature of the mountains. His example continues to inspire others, also looking for the ideal. On July 5, 2009, John Bacar, an icon of free solo climbing, made his final ascent at Dyke Wall near Mammoth Lakes, California. Bacar had long been a legend in the climbing world, known for his climbing without ropes, harnesses, or any safety equipment. His philosophy was simple: the climber should rely solely on their skill and strength, with no margin for error. His early exploits at Joshua Tree and Yosemite, including the notorious free solo ascents of routes like New Dimensions and the Nabisco Wall, earned him a reputation for pushing the boundaries of what was possible. In 1981, he famously issued a challenge, offering $10,000 to anyone who could match him for a day of climbing. No one took him up on it. That same year, during a trip to Germany, Bacar made the first free ascent of Chasen the Train, named after one of his favorite jazz musicians, further solidifying his status as a climbing legend. Despite the fame, Bacar lived a simple life, often out of his red Volkswagen van at Joshua Tree, where he practiced his craft beyond the rock. Bacar was also a devoted father. The birth of his son Tyrus added a new dimension to his life, revealing a tender side of a man known for his boldness on the cliffs. Even as he aged, Bacar continued to defy the odds. At 52, he was still climbing at a level that many younger climbers could only aspire to. On that fateful day in July, the weather was perfect, and Bacar, as always, was prepared. He had climbed Dyke Wall numerous times, each climb showcasing his unparalleled skill and relentless drive. Bacar's movements were deliberate and precise as he navigated the familiar route. But something went wrong as he reached for a crucial hold. His foot slipped on the granite, and in that split second, everything changed. Bacar fell, the ground rushing up to meet him with fatal force. The impact was so severe that he died instantly. Despite his decades of experience, he was not invincible. He had spent his life pushing the limits of human potential, and in the end, those very limits claimed him. The purity of the sport had motivated him, but sometimes money can also be involved. On November 8, 2017, Wu Yongning, China's most famous rooftopper, climbed to the top of Changsha's 62-story Huaiyuan International Center. Wu had garnered millions of followers online for his death-defying stunts on skyscrapers, all performed without any safety equipment. But Wu wasn't just seeking fame, he needed the money. He was offered a significant payment by the live streaming platform for this particular stunt, and with his family struggling financially and his mother in need of medical care, the offer was too tempting to refuse. That day, Wu planned to perform a series of pull-ups on the ledge of the skyscraper, with the sprawling city far below. The platform had promised him around 55,000 won, approximately $8,300, if he could pull off the stunt successfully. As he hoisted himself up on the ledge, the city stretched out like a dizzying abyss beneath him. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but when he attempted one final pull-up, his grip faltered. For a split second, Wu desperately tried to recover, his arms straining against gravity, but it was too late. He lost his hold and plummeted 45 feet onto a terrace below. The fall was captured on camera, a chilling end to a life lived on the edge. Wu's death ignited widespread debates across China. The live streaming platform, which had profited from his dangerous stunt, was later found partially responsible by a Beijing court, and his mother was awarded a modest compensation of 30,000 won, about $4,400. Wu's pursuit of financial security through these stunts came at the ultimate cost. But even if someone takes such risks and survives, it still doesn't mean they're safe from other freak circumstances. On July 13, 2007, Michael Reardon, an accomplished free solo climber, stood at the base of a cliff on Valentia Island, Ireland. Reardon was known for his bold climbs and his belief that free soloing was more than just a physical challenge. It was a mental and spiritual journey. He often spoke of climbing as a form of self-expression, a way to connect with the natural world on the deepest level, to get beyond the ego. You got one shot on this dust ball. Let's have some fun. That day, after completing another solo climb, Reardon paused to take in the beauty of the Irish coastline. The risky solo climb completed didn't mean he was now safe. His friend and photographer Damon Corso described the incident. It was just another day of climbing on Atlantic Sea cliffs in Ireland with Mike. We had arrived in Valentia Island on a slight fog and drizzle. Mike took me around the bottom of Wireless Point to an inlet merely 15 feet above the roaring Atlantic, a situation we were now used to. We arrived at a spot he'd climbed it alone 2 weeks prior. Mike up and down 2 different climbs while I shot photos, trying to combine him and the raw force of the waves crashing all around us. He finished the 2 climbs and was waiting on an algae-covered platform for the big swells to pass by, so that he could walk back over to me on the opposite side of the inlet. A rogue wave came into the inlet and curved rightwards as it crashed into Mike. He tried to stabilize himself on the platform, but the water was too powerful and sucked him in. The current pulled Mike out 150 plus meters in mere seconds. I ran up the hill to the Valentia Coast Guard station a mile away. Mike was still conscious in the water when I left him. The Coast Guard arrived on the scene no more than 15 minutes after the incident. Mike was nowhere to be seen at that point. 12 volunteer rescue boats, the Coast Guard lifeboat and chopper were on the scene that evening. Reardon, who had survived countless perilous climbs, was taken not by a fall, but by the sea he so admired. For Reardon, free solo climbing was a way of embracing that uncertainty, of pushing back against the boundaries of what was possible. It was a philosophy he lived until the very end. But falling while free solo climbing doesn't always have to be the end. By the way, before we move on to our last story, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you like this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. On April 16th, 2019, Kyle Walker, a seasoned climber with a deep love for the mountains, set out to scramble the second Flatiron in Boulder, Colorado. Walker was no stranger to this route. He had climbed it hundreds of times, drawn by the intense focus and freedom that free soloing provided. But that day, something would go terribly wrong. The climb began like any other, with Walker moving confidently up the familiar rock, But as he neared the top, he decided to try a slight variation in his route, something new to challenge himself. As he made his final move, his foot slipped on a patch of lichen-covered rock. In an instant, he was falling. Walker tumbled 60 feet down the rock face, hitting ledge after ledge before finally coming to a stop. His body was battered. Both wrists, 8 ribs, and his pelvis were broken, and one of his lungs was punctured. He lay there, alone and in excruciating pain, drifting in and out of consciousness. It took over an hour for a passerby to find him and alert rescue teams. The rescue was difficult and required technical skills. But eventually, Walker was airlifted to safety. Remarkably, he survived, though his recovery was long and arduous. During his time in rehabilitation, Walker's resilience was put to the test. Despite the severity of his injuries, he healed surprisingly quickly, as he described it. After weeks of intense recovery, he was close to being released from Boulder Community Health's Foothills Hospital. Reflecting on the fall, Walker shared that in the critical moment before impact, he had accepted his fate, believing he wouldn't survive. But against all odds, he did. Walker's near-death experience is a testament to the dangers of climbing. Even for those who are well-practiced and prepared, it's a stark reminder that in free solo climbing, every move counts, and every climb could be your last. But with the feeling of regret for the premature death of a great climber and a fine personality, comes also the feeling of pride that there are still men of the greatest adventurers in our generation who, with full knowledge of all the easier and more profitable alternatives that life has to offer, continue to match their skill as it increases against increasing difficulty and accept the issue with calm resolve. So what do you think? Did they cherish being alive by taking such risks? Or did they not cherish their lives enough? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories that keep you on the edge.